Hey y'all, Devin the Albino Jackass here, and in today's video we are continuing our series on country music. And today I want to focus on the women of country music. We can't forget those ladies, y'all. Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it because country music has a very rich tradition of female singers and songwriters, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. So, I had mentioned in my first video about the Carter family and Maybelle Carter. She pretty much set the standard for how to play the guitar, not only for country music, but for a lot of other genres. Her style of picking, the Carter scratch as it's often called, is one of the most common guitar styles today. And again, they didn't write all of their own songs. Again, a lot of their songs they got through going into their local community and getting a lot of these old folk ballads that had been handed down through generations. They would take these and adapt these, so you got to give them a little props for adapting these songs and making them palatable, to a modern audience for their time. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of the history up to this point, women in country music were either relegated to being background singers or dancers or some other form. So they really weren't put out in the forefront of things until Miss Kitty Wells came along in the late 40s, early 50s, with her song "It Wasn't God That Made Honky Tonk Angels," which was a response to Hank Thompson's song "I Didn't Know God Made Honky Tonk Angels." And the meaning of Hank Thompson's song was basically saying that, my wife caused me to go astray. So Kitty Wells decides to make a response to that says, hey, sometimes you men treat us like crap too, and that causes us to go astray, which for the time was unheard of. She stood up for a lot of women in that time when it was very unfashionable for women to do so. And that really kicked down the door because around 1952, you have Patsy Cline come in with her song "Walking After Midnight." And Patsy Cline is another one of the real big early ones. Now, she would later blossom in the 60s with the Nashville sound. She would help the career of Willie Nelson by recording a lot of his songs like "Crazy" and "Three Cigarettes in the Ashtray." So Patsy really wasn't much of a songwriter, but she had a wonderful style of singing, and again, she had an authenticity because she lived like almost all of the artists that came before her up to this point. She lived the type of life she had been singing about. And in the 50s, you have Dolly Parton come up, who is, if you want to put her on any scale, she's probably the Hank Williams of female country singers. Dolly really set the standard. She originally, I believe, if I remember correctly, came out of bluegrass. And she brought that wonderful, high, lonesome style of singing into country music. And Dolly, again, was very unapologetic in the way she conducted herself. One of her quotes is, "It takes a lot of money to look this trashy." And women just didn't do that before then. It was very, very unfashionable for women to do this. And Dolly was, again, very unapologetic in doing all of this. She made her own music. She did things her way. And she was very, very business savvy as well. That's another thing that cannot be understated about Dolly. Or cannot be overstated about Dolly, rather, is her business acumen is second to none. But her songwriting is very unique because Dolly could write just about any genre, I believe. And she would later veer into more pop music starting in the mid-70s, early 80s. She would veer into that, but she always kept true to herself, and that was refreshing to see. A couple of years later, Loretta Lynn comes along, and Loretta Lynn's story is similar to Dolly's in a lot of ways, in that they both grew up very poor. I actually don't think Dolly Parton's dad could read, actually, but Loretta Lynn grew up the daughter of a coal miner. It's actually the title of her biography, Coal Miner's Daughter. So she grew up very, very poor, and she was married off at 13. Now, that sounds absolutely insane to us today, and to be fair, it is. But at the time, especially in this part of the country, it was seen as giving your daughter a chance for a much better life. So she got married to a man named Doolittle Lynn. And unfortunately, this marriage was not a very happy one at first. Doolittle was an alcoholic, a womanizer. He was very abusive. But Loretta was able to put all of that into her music. Loretta Lynn is an excellent songwriter, easily up there with Dolly Parton, and these ladies easily crack the top 10 of men or women in country music. And again, Loretta was a little bit, she was probably the first hot firecracker, and if you're from Kentucky, you know what I mean. That little 5'2" woman that's not afraid to knock your teeth out. That was Loretta Lynn for country music. Her two big early songs were "You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man" and "Fist City," in which she says, "If you try to take my man, I'm going to beat the crap out of you." So, and again, that was something that had never been done before Loretta Lynn. It's like, whoa, women are like that? Holy crap. And so that really helped knock another door down. Like, the same kind of appeal that Miranda Lambert has, for example. That would be, you could call her kind of trying to step into Loretta's shoes. So, and again, Loretta's songwriting, second to none. And her voice, again, one of the best to ever grace country music. And Dolly's duets with Porter Wagoner and Loretta's duets with Conway Twitty are two of the best five in country music. Tammy Wynette was another big one. Again, a great success story. Started out, her first husband was abusive, and she left him to start her own singing career. She bet on herself, and she won. Now, she would later marry George Jones, and they would produce, again, another one of the top best five duets in country music. Excuse me. And Tammy Wynette, again, an excellent songwriter, a lovely voice. Now, I'm not talking about their unique sounds. Loretta Lynn definitely kept to more of a honky-tonk style. Dolly Parton was kind of all over the place. She did what she wanted. And Patsy Cline started out in honky-tonk, but eventually moved over to that Nashville sound, a little less Hank Williams, a little more Nat King Cole. A good example would be Crazy. But they would all pretty much play their contemporary styles until Emmylou Harris comes along, and she was strictly traditional country music, more in line with the Carter family and that folk movement that really started in the 60s with the counterculture movement. And a lot of the hippies and the counterculture people liked bluegrass and things like that because it was uncommercial. And Emmylou fit right in with that audience. Again, her duets with Graham Parsons are pretty good, but she's really known for her songwriting skills. She's actually featured on the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack. She's one of the sirens, actually, to give you a hint onto what she sounds like if you've never heard her before. So as you can see, there's been a lot of very influential women, June Carter being another one. And June has an interesting story in the fact that she wasn't really considered much of a singer until she got with Johnny Cash. Her sister Anita was more the singer. Now, all of Maybelle's daughters kind of grew up in the spotlight, but June really was the funny one. And her duets with Johnny Cash are in the top 5 best. Now, she wrote a lot of her own songs. She wrote a lot of her own poetry. She was a pretty free-spirited woman, and a very, very interesting woman. Deeply religious, and is responsible for saving Johnny Cash. So, gotta love June. I had to mention June. But, women in country music is a very, very long and very, very proud tradition. So, never discount, a female and their musical abilities. I will tell you that firsthand. And Alison Krauss is who we're going to wrap this up with, because her voice, again, she came out of bluegrass. If you want a good example of the bluegrass sound for a female, Alison Krauss just has it down beautifully. And again, authenticity runs through all of these women. All of these women are they're all amazing. Dolly Parton and Loretta Lynn especially. And Patsy Cline, these women influenced, again, like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, influenced generations of women. Miranda Lambert is on record as saying Loretta Lynn is her favorite of all time. So, it's a long, rich tradition. and I wanted to cover it in this video. But I think that's about all for this video. We'll get into my analysis on country music and a little bit more deeper in my next video, but be sure to let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good fun stuff. Thanks for watching. I've been the Albino Jackass. Thanks for listening to me hee-haw. Have a great day, guys.